So today we will go forward. We will try and understand the Western political thought. So if you look at your syllabus in the paper 1 and section A, the last line is related to Western political Western political thoughts, or you can also call it as thinkers. Western political thoughts or Western political thinkers. So students, let us understand how these Western political thoughts or thinkers has started and evolved over a period of time. In my previous lecture, I had given you a hint related to the origin of the Western political thinker from the famous personality that is Plato. So the form of the concept of justice or the concept of state or the concept of governance. So this all of this concept has been deeply rooted or seeded from the mind of Plato. In my previous lecture, I had given you a chance to understand the concept of time and space. Students, I mentioned you earlier that whenever we talk about a particular thinker, we also need to understand what time that person belongs and what was the circumstances that compelled that particular person to give his or her ideas. So the journey of the entire Western political thoughts from Plato to, let's say, Karl Marx has been quite a roller coaster. Also, I have mentioned that in your syllabus, if you look at it, we study about the ancient time, medieval time. We do not touch much because there is no such huge political developments from the syllabus point of view. Then we talk about the modern times. So the Western political thoughts, the journey is from idealism to realism. From the idealism to realism. From monarchy to democracy. From state controlled to state facilitator. So that is the journey of Western political thoughts or Western political thinkers. Now, if we look at the personality as Plato, he is considered to be an idealistic person. So what is the meaning of an idealistic person? An idealistic person is always thinks about, as it appears, a perfect world. I'm sure that many of you may have gone through certain situation, or many of you have thought of a situation or thought of a world for you, maybe your study or maybe your home, where you think that this is perfect, or can it be perfect? Can a situation, or can a place, or can a uh, particular environment be perfect? Sometimes we say, if this happens, then this would have been perfect. Don't you think so? Sometimes we say, if this happens, this would have been perfect. If I have this would have been perfect. But all of you know that perfect is never real. Perfect is always imaginary. Perfect is always called utopia. What do you mean by utopia? Utopia means it appears to be true, in reality it is not. All of you are preparing for the civil service. I'm sure that when you started your preparation, you had an idea in your mind that once I become collector or maybe a police officer, then things would have been perfect for me. So that is the idea. But all of this preparation, journey, practices, mock test, discussion, mentorship, these are the processes which we follow in order to realize, in order to convert the idea into real. So when in the Western political thoughts or thinkers also, when we talk about Plato, the beginning or the origin of the concepts like governance, justice, etc., then when we move towards, let's say, Locke, Rousseau, and for example Marx, which he has talked about the revolution, then we come to know it is from the idealism to realism. It is from the monarchical system of state control to democracy. There was a time in the ancient where people were controlled, but now people control the government. So this is the journey of the political science. Now let us try to understand before we jump directly into the discussion on Plato. We should know the story of the entire political thoughts from Plato to Marx. Don't worry, I will share this PDF to your applications. Okay. Now the story itself begins from the ancient Greeks. In my previous lecture, I have said that ancient Greece, in the very famous war of Peloponnesian, where Sparta defeated the Athens. Athens is a part of the Greece, and Plato belongs to Athens. So Plato was more concerned about why it is being defeated, what is the problem. There, the concepts of the Plato, he has given or he has imagined a concept of perfect society. And how do you achieve a perfect society? By having a perfect environment, by having a perfect ruler, which he called or which he named as philosopher king, who happens to be a wise ruler and guided only by reason, not by power. So there comes Plato, who happens to be the student of Socrates. After that Plato comes the Aristotle, who is realistic. Plato is a father of political philosophy. Aristotle is the father of political science. Aristotle brought the scientific nature into the entire system. Once Aristotle observed that as the society is divided, how at the upper level there will be ruler who are supposed to rule, who are supposed to govern. At the middle level there will be people like the common people who happens to enjoy the life or do their proper duty. There is also another class, that is soldier class, who happens to protect it. So Plato thought that it is justice when ruler will rule properly, soldiers will protect properly, and the middle class, or the, you can say, the society will serve their duty. So that was the concept of justice related to Plato. We will learn in detail, by the way, when we talk about the Plato's chapter. I am just giving you a kind of a summary. At the same time, Aristotle somehow countered with Plato. Although Aristotle was a student of Plato, he is also biggest disciple of Plato. So he brought the concept of realistic, he brought the concept of logic into the ideas of Plato. So he mentioned that man are political animal. You cannot always bind the man, and you cannot always control the man. They are political animal. In the name of Plato, there is a famous quote: man is a social animal. Sometimes in UPSC also that this was a direct question: man is a social animal. So a man cannot live. When I talk about man, man means man and woman both. So human beings are social animals. So man cannot live without a society. We cannot live without a society. So that is the concept of Aristotle. There comes the Augustine and Aquinas, especially they have mentioned the merging of the God and politics. So Saint Augustine, primarily it has argued that the state is necessary to control sin. People are conducting sins and the state is necessary. And after Augustine, it is Saint Thomas Aquinas who has reintroduced the same concept of Plato as a natural law. And he mentioned that God's plan for human beings, he considered faith and reason. So the bedrock of the foundation of the governance of the state shall be based on faith and shall be based on reason, although that is not in the syllabus. So going forward, when we talk about the Machiavelli, he mentioned related to the, he is also called as the father of modern politics, and he brought the Renaissance. He brought the Renaissance. He held that he is the first person who separated ethics from politics. In my previous lecture also I mentioned during the ancient time there was no difference between societal and political. There was no difference between ethics and politics. But Machiavelli mentioned about ethics and politics and dealt both of them separately. Do you know that? Can you tell me which Indian personality is considered to be Machiavelli? Anybody knows this answer? Which Indian personality is known as Machiavelli? It is, who is considered as Machiavelli? It is Chanakya. Okay, it is Chanakya. Yes. So Machiavelli once said in the very famous work named The Prince, he said a prince should be clever like a fox and strong like a lion. A prince should be clever like a fox and strong like a lion. So when Machiavelli gave this kind of concept, there comes the famous personality called as Hobbes. You know, Hobbes has a work called as Leviathan. Hobbes has said during his own time there was a disorder in the society. So he observed those disorder, he observed those tyranny and said that no, in this particular state of nature, the entire people are either selfish or they are violent. So if a society should be controlled, and it must be controlled in order for the progress of all the people, then the people have to surrender their rights to the one entity, and that is nothing but state. That is nothing but state. So sometimes Hobbes is referred as authoritarian in his work in Leviathan. So after Hobbes, there comes another personality, John Locke, who happens to be called as father of liberalism. So the John Locke, approximately after Hobbes, after 100 years of Hobbes, John Locke came and John Locke said that no, state always cannot control every sphere of life of human being. If human beings will give all the rights to the state, so what is left with them? So John Locke brought the concept of human rights. John Locke brought the concept of natural rights like liberty, freedom to speak, freedom to express, and freedom to give certain degree of opinion. So his famous work called as Two Treatises of Government or Two Treatises of Government, and he has said that government should not be absolute, government should be limited. Government should have certain power to control, but however, people also need to have certain rights. So that is the concept of John Locke. So John Locke actually gave the ignition related to the American and French Revolution. Next, I would say thinker is Rousseau, who I sometimes say romantic rebel because Jean-Jacques Rousseau, okay, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, he said that, okay, look, if the state has to exist and the society has to exist, so there should be a mutual understanding. There should be a kind of agreement. And the agreement is not a written proposal, the agreement can be a invisible agreement. And that is nothing but known as social contract. Locke also has given the concept of social contract. Hobbes also has given a social contract. So Rousseau also has given a social contract. And he has said that the concepts are guided by general will. It is the people's will. And you can say Rousseau gave birth to the direct concepts of democracy or direct democracy, where the government should work according to the will of the people. Then comes another famous personality is J.S. Mill, who championed the concept of liberty, the concept of progress, the concept of democracy also. So the J.S. Mill, one of the libertarian, he focused more on individual liberty than the social goods. He said that social goods are important, individual liberties are also important, but in the name of social goods, the state cannot control each and every sphere of life. So J.S. Mill has given the tyranny of the majority. He has seen the danger of tyranny of majority, and he happens to give a quote like, for example, the greatest happiness for the greatest numbers. Now there comes after the famous and one of the, I would say, revolutionary thinker who has changed the entire political life or political scenario of uh, the entire time or era is Karl Marx. So Karl Marx mentioned, and he has seen how capitalism or how industrialist or how bourgeois class or how capitalist class, they are exploiting the basically the labor class. So he has seen the struggle, he has seen the struggle, and he has revolutionary stated that all the thinkers before to the Karl Marx, they are unable to identify one simple problem, that you have written history one after another, but the entire history is nothing but class struggle. It is the struggle between two different classes, where the superior class in terms of the strength and the money are nothing but suppressing the lower class. So that is the concept of Karl Marx, which is a very thought provoking. So students, you can clearly see from the idealistic concept of Plato to the revolutionary movement of Karl Marx is the story of Western political thinkers or Western political thoughts, how it has shaped the history of the state or the governance throughout the time period. I hope all of you understood this particular